Brainy Ink present. Why do bad things happen to good people? We've all been there, unlucky and wondering why me? I mean, who hasn't asked themselves that question when going through the worst time of their life? When something bad happens, it's natural to wonder why. Bad karma? Is God punishing me? Am I cursed? The reality is probably much more complicated than that. Unfavorable and even unfortunate things can happen regardless of what you believe, what you do, and how good a person you try to be. And while it's impossible to give a definitive answer to why bad things happen to good people, here are some possibilities. Easily influenced. When I say easily influenced, I mean if someone else makes a suggestion, you're more likely to agree with it again, without you really consider it. You don't really think whether the idea is good for you or not, you just go with it. And if you do this consistently over time, it can lead to all sorts of bad things. In fact, being easily influenced by others is one of the fastest ways to get yourself into trouble. If you only make decisions based on other people's opinions, you will inevitably end up doing things that are not in your best interest. Now we all know how persuasive some people can be, but it is important not to let their influence cloud your judgment. You must stay true to your beliefs and desires, even if they don't match what someone tells you is right. Attachment to results. It's great to have goals and aspirations, but if you get too attached to them, you may end up failing. Here's why. Being attached to an outcome means that your feelings are tied to something that will happen in the future. And when that future doesn't happen the way you want it to or not at all, those feelings kick in. This is especially true for things that seem really important, like having a baby. This can be difficult for everyone, but if you're already somehow attached to the results, it can seem like everything is falling apart at once. I'm not saying you shouldn't want things or have certain expectations. But to not get discouraged when things don't go your way, you need to know how to stop yourself from getting too attached to the results. Overconfident. We all want to believe in the best in people, but sometimes our beliefs in others can be misplaced. You can't know anyone's true intentions, and you can overestimate someone's moral character just because they seem nice. Unfortunately, this can lead to situations where others can take advantage of your trust or use you for their own benefit. It can often be difficult for us to see ourselves as vulnerable targets. It seems safer to think that someone else is to blame. But if someone tries to manipulate you into doing something that goes against your core values or makes you uncomfortable, it's important not only to recognize it, but also to act immediately. Otherwise, these little nudges can turn into a full-blown manipulative tactic that makes you feel like a victim. Making bad choices. When you find yourself in a bad situation, it's easy to think that you're not responsible for the problem. Even if you made mistakes along the way, it doesn't feel like you deserve the consequences you faced. It's not like you thought it would happen like this. The problem is that we often have a distorted and idealized view of ourselves. We tend to forget that we are imperfect beings and we don't always do our best. People rarely want to take responsibility for their mistakes or admit that they need help. And sometimes they are not even aware of their shortcomings. When you make a mistake, it is not difficult to think that you are an exception. You think to yourself that I am a good person, it's not a bad choice. But if you look at the big picture, it becomes clear that even good people can make bad choices. It takes courage and self-awareness to recognize these problems. But if you do, life becomes much easier, because you can start working to improve yourself instead of blaming others for your problems. Some things are just out of our control. You can be a good person and do everything right, but that doesn't mean that your life doesn't have hard parts. That's how it happens sometimes. And when that happens, it can feel like the universe is conspiring against you. But the truth is, there are certain things in life that we cannot control. Bad things happen to good people every day, and often without any rhyme or reason. That is hard for people to accept, especially if they are used to controlling every aspect of their life. But if you've ever had an accident, missed an important meeting, or lost your job unexpectedly, you know that things happen, and sometimes they're out of your control. Life is unpredictable and it can seem unfair. Some have it easier than others, and sometimes those who do their best don't get the credit they deserve, while those who do bad things and cause problems are often praised. The bottom line is that we live in an imperfect world, one where things don't always go as planned and where bad things happen to good people. The most important thing is to keep going. Keep striving for better, even when things seem impossible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends so we can keep making them. For more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and remember to click on the notification bell. Also, be sure to check out our other videos as well. Thanks for watching.